Soldiers ready to fill in for London Armed Police. And look at them, COVID secure, it's good. Look at these fucking kids. They're just big babies, aren't they, really, playing fucking with their guns and stuff. Do you think they're keeping us safe with all this posturing? On the rare occasions I go to airports, I always feel intimidated and uncomfortable in the presence of armed police. I don't think it's necessary. I think it sends a very negative signal. But I do believe we're moving towards a Mad Max style society where the police and army will be playing a much greater role in our in control, and they have to create pretexts by which the police are needed. I mean, frankly, I'd much rather the police can, focus on shoplifting and burglary and violence and stuff like that, rather than these posturing. Look at them in black. It's all very, I don't know. It's machismo, right? And with their Freemasonic checkerboards here. Because let's face it, the police are Freemasons. Don't get me wrong, we do need people to act the role of police, because unfortunately there are bad people out there, and not just the government. There are individual people who are doing bad things. If you talk to any shop manager or something, you'll realise there's a very, very big problem with shoplifting. For example, the police are almost never to be seen. They very seldom investigate and very seldom arrest people. In fact, they can't really, because there just isn't room in prison for all the people they'd have to put in there. And of course, open borders create more problems, because we're allowing people with criminal records from other countries to move to the UK, creating a huge problem for us. But the government don't care. They never will care. But I'm thinking one of the reasons why the police have gone on strike here, because of inevitably the police shot an unarmed black man. How convenient for the narrative. There's always got to be a black man involved. There's always black people involved in everything now. I think it might be a pretext just to get soldiers on the street, because now you can say, well, the reason we have soldiers on the street is because the police are not doing their job. I mean, what kind of society are we turning into? Has anybody ever had a think about it? Do we have to live like this, really? Honestly? Do we really have to live this way? I mean, look at this. I mean, what are these people doing? It's ridiculous. And so what happens if one of these, the police have a very bad record for domestic violence, and lots of police officers. I mean, is it safe to give people who might be a bit screwy these kind of weapons? Just because the person's a policeman doesn't mean they're not good people. It doesn't mean they're good people. I mean, they might be, but it's an awful lot of responsibility. Police officers have gambling habits, have got mistresses, or maybe boyfriends, I don't know, and they're just as prone to anger as everyone else. And yet the problem is they've got all this weapon paraphernalia at their disposal, and if they use it, they might get a slap on the wrist. But the government give these people permission to shoot people. So I think this could be a pretext to get military on the street and get us used to martial law, which I think is what's going to happen at some point. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. What's this rubbish? Asteroid samples, more crap. All this bloody NASA stuff. Complete lies, the whole lot of it. And India on the moon and all the rest of it. What a load of bollocks that is. Unbelievable. And here we have endless sport. Sport, sport, sport. These, you see, and they get this black lady to pretend to be a cooking expert. Well, maybe she's become a cooking expert. I'm sure she's a good cook. But the reality is she ticked the diversity boxes, because it's important for the BBC to pretend to be really, really woke. So you've got to have people like that on. I mean, it was a decision to cast her in the role of cookery expert to get rid of people like Fanny Craddock and Delia Smith and all the rest of it. Fair enough. I mean, if she can cook, she can cook. But the headscarf and all the rest of it, And meanwhile, they pretend that Muslims are terrorists. But you see, how can it be that a country that actually frames Islam for terrorism actually promotes them at the same time in these meaningless roles as TV personalities? A lot of people can't understand that, but that's what's happening. It's the same people who frame Muslims for terrorism are the same people who invite them in. They invite them in order to frame them. And look at this rubbish. Angela Rippon. I mean, hasn't she got enough retirement savings? Does she really need to do this? Honestly, and people find this interesting. Krishna Guru Murthy. Aren't these people supposed to be... where's the gravitas? If you want to go to the disco, by all means do so. I'm not against people having a dance, but come on. It's just trivia. This student meal plan costs less than £1.25 per person, proportion. Well, that's a bit more realistic, I suppose. Lizzo sued again over bullying and harassment. How is it possible? I thought this obese person was... Oh, sorry, this plus-size person was really, really nice. Oh, well. Another dream shattered. And there's another story here that I noticed. It's about an island, apparently. I don't know where it is. It's about a black lady, a black kid who wasn't given a medal. I mean, the medals were handed out like confetti. I mean, it wasn't like a gold medal or anything, but there was like a queue of kids. And there was a black kid who, to be fair, was standing a bit further back. And now, of course, Simone Biles has... It's in the sports section, I'm guessing. Must be here. And rugby, I mean, God. If only people... Here we are. Biles criticises Black Irish girl's medal snub. When the line had shown awarded medals, but the black girl did not receive one. Okay, so they somehow or other... There was a event in Dublin, which was more than a year and a half ago, has emerged in recent days. But how do we know what really happened? I mean, it's possible that you might accidentally miss a black person in a queue. You might. I'm not saying that's what happened, because I don't know what happened. I wouldn't be surprised if this was done deliberately. But I think it's quite likely that the person who was handing out the medals, who presumably were given to everyone, or should have been given to everyone. So are we going to find out who the person was who didn't give this black lady, black child, a medal, or a participation medal, whatever it was? Because, I mean, we need to ask her, you know, what happened, why? I mean, she can say, look, I'm sorry, I just didn't see her. You know, it could happen. I mean, if a white kid gets missed out, no one says it's racism. It might be, you know. If there was a line of black kids and a white kid didn't get a medal, yeah, there is racism in society, and there are probably people in Ireland who don't really want immigrants in. Although the Irish have got a long, long way to catch up with us in England. Well, we've got far more immigrants than they have per capita as a proportion of our population. And after all, the Irish are the globalists. We in Britain, at least in England, we stood up against the European Union, which promotes open borders. The European Union doesn't just promote open borders for Europeans to flood in, it also promotes the concept that there's one world and that everybody's country belongs to everyone else. So it might be that Simone Biles is genuinely believes that it might be that she genuinely believes that this kid was snubbed because she was black, which would be wrong, and I think most of us would agree. But the question is, why would this video emerge after a year and a half? Could it be that the video was taken deliberately? And I'm saying that I think it might well be. I would like to know, are we going to find out who that person in the giving the medals was? Because a lot of people must know who she is. And we need to talk to her and ask her why this happened. Because at the very least, it's incredibly bad manners, right? I mean, it really would be very bad manners. I'm thinking that they're not going to even tell us who she is, simply because this whole thing is set up. It's a setup. I think it's a setup to create more race baiting. They want race baiting. They want to keep telling white people they're racist, right? I mean, a black kid is still far better off in a white country than they would be in a black country. I mean, how many black kids are actually thinking of going to live in Central Africa? I don't think many are, right? Black people continue to emigrate to white countries despite the fact that constantly being they're constantly being told how racist we are, which means that even if we are racist, we're still better for them than their own country. Look at South Africa. Black faces, black people in power, or black people pretending to be in power, and yet the situation for the average person has got much worse in the last few years. In fact, black people were mostly better off with white faces in power. So, I'm tired of this agenda of white people being cast as bad. Yes, if this white official in Ireland did not give that kid a medal, then that's wrong and she should be punished. But it doesn't reflect on society as a whole. I'm not responsible for that. If I'd been handing out medals, that black kid would have got one as well, for sure, 100%, because I always have and always will treat people as equals, because that's what they are. But on the other hand, I'm not obliged to like people. I don't dislike or like anybody simply because of the colour of their skin. I meet them, I get to know them, and if I like them, I don't care whether they're black or not. I'm actually friendly with and know black people whom I like and respect, and there's also white people out there whom I don't like and don't respect. But just because a person's black doesn't mean I have to like them, and I'm certainly not going to like white people just because they're white. I don't care. Jewish people, I don't care. If a person's Jewish and they're good, I prefer them. I like them to anybody, even a country I like, because they have bad people too. I'm thinking that this story has been contrived, actually. Simone Biles. There's no room for racism in any sport. Not being given a medal at an Irish gymnastic event in March 22. So are we going to find, it's emerged in recent days, why had it emerged? Broke my heart. From the parents of the girl. An honest error. Okay, well, it might have been. That's the problem is, if you make an honest error in this context, it's going to be seen as racism, isn't it? If a white kid didn't get a medal, nobody would claim it was racist because, there are 10 kids in a row and one kid doesn't get a medal. But if by chance the black kid is the one who doesn't get a medal, it has to be considered racist. And we have this back to front society where any white crime on black, and they're not that common, frankly, is considered racist. But any black crime on white is just considered general crime. If a black person beats someone up, a white person up, that's just crime. But it's never considered racist crime. Why is that? Now, look, I'm not. Maybe Simone Biles doesn't know what's going on in society. She should know. She's been around the block. She's been involved in gymnastics, which is a form of entertainment, really. Don't get me wrong, it's very skillful, but it is entertainment. Sport is entertainment. It's like movies. It's designed to divert people. You know? It doesn't, I don't, if people do if gymnastics or whatever people do with their free time, skillful or unskillful, it's really quite trivial from my point of view. The world is suffering under almost all kinds of problems. We need to understand that many of the problems are being created for us. I'm a big fan of ODD TV, even though I'm not a big fan of rap, but his lyrics are superb. And basically one of the lyrics is, and it's they create the problems and then they offer us the solutions. So they create the problems for us. When you hear a story about racism or something like the police handing in their guns or da-di-da-di-da, there's a very, very real chance that this is performance and that these issues have been contrived and they are doing these things deliberately and it's part of a script. Police handing their guns, army deployed. Black girl doesn't get a medal, racism issue, right? There might be another agenda at work. The news, the things we're told, the things that are promoted, the things that are inflated in media as issues. I'm saying that in many, many cases, these issues are scripted and created for us. Thank you.